Welcome to the Grow Strong Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Meredith Bell, and I interview business leaders who are committed to their own growth and the development of everyone on their team. If you enjoy my podcast, be sure to subscribe and rate it on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Meredith Bell, and you know how I love bringing to you people who are focused on their own growth and development and also dedicated to the development of the people in their world. And I've got someone very special to introduce to you today. And you know, this focus is also the focus of our company, Grow Strong Leaders. We have created tools and books that help people learn how to interact with each other more effectively at work. And you can learn more about us at growstrongleaders.com. Today, I am so thrilled to introduce to you my guest, Dr. Angela Stopper. Angela, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much, Meredith. It is an honor and a privilege to spend some time with you today and with your listeners. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I am too, and they will be too, and they find out who you are and what we're going to be talking about. Angela is the Chief Learning Officer and Director of People and Organization Development at the University of California, Berkeley. She's responsible for the team that creates and delivers campus-wide learning initiatives that support supervisory, management, functional, and technical learning efforts for the campus's 9,000 staff and faculty administrators. In her work at Berkeley, Angela is a faculty member, in addition to her work at Berkeley, Angela is a faculty member with Penn State World Campus, where she has developed and is teaching a course for the online Master of Professional Studies degree in Organization Development and Change. You know, Angela, you have been focused on learning. You've been passionate about this and how people interact with each other in an organization. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your journey. Where did you start out and how did you come to do the work you're doing today?
Yeah, so, you know, I come from a very humble background. I'm from a very rural part of Pennsylvania. My dad was a coal miner. My mom worked in a factory. And pretty early on, and I don't know, I sometimes think it was Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or maybe Reading Rainbow or a combination of those three. Pretty early on, I just fell in love with learning. And I'm the first person in my family to go to college, certainly the first person in my family to get a Ph.D. And all of that is because of the amazing land-grant university system, these big Research One universities that came to us through the land-grant system. So I'm a Penn State grad through and through. I received my undergrad and my PhD from the Pennsylvania State University. And while I was there, I started working part-time for our executive education group at Penn State. And I just didn't even know that people could do these things for a living. I had no idea that you could do learning and development and you could help people to be their best selves at work. You know, I didn't know that that was a job. And so I was very lucky. I had a few professors, Dr. Robert Novak, Dr. John Coyle, that took an interest in me and said, hey, we want you to come work in exec ed. And then I had, you know, a couple mentors and Maria Taylor, Jeff Spearley, these mentors at work that said, you can do, you know, and got me into the PhD program. And that's what led me here. So after, you know, working for 20 years or so in executive education and continuing education, I made the decision that I wanted to do those learning initiatives and programs for people within my organization instead of selling them to people outside of the organization, and had this struggle. You know, as I mentioned, the land-grant system, these public research institutions made me who I am. And I thought, do I really want to leave? You know, because I had worked at Penn State for a number of years. I'd worked at UC Davis for a number of years. And I thought, I really want to be a chief learning officer, but do I want to leave this amazing world of higher education? And I saw a position for a chief learning officer here at the University of California, Berkeley, and thought, well, that's interesting. I can have that internal focus and I can take the expertise that I've gained in building learning and development and organization development programs, and I can put it to work for the people that work for the same company that I work for, and not have to leave the research higher education institution. What a perfect fit. So that's what brought me to Berkeley about 5 years ago. And, I went from that external focus to the internal focus and now develop programs with my team for the staff and faculty here at Berkeley.
Mm-hmm. It's so cool that you've been able to stay in that arena. And I think it's going to be an interesting thing for my listeners to hear how within, we think of academia sometimes as being kind of staid and, set in their ways. And you've been able to successfully introduce some pretty innovative things there that I'm eager to talk to you about. And one of those you call the you, me, we learning model. And so I'd love for you to explain that, because I think it'll be of great interest to my audience.
Yeah, so you, me, we kind of came to me. I was at a talk listening to folks talking about 70-20-10 and informal and social learning. And, we've done some research with my research partners at Rothwell and Associates. And what we were hearing from people in the industry was that 70-20-10 just wasn't working for them. When we think about 10% of learning coming from formal learning, people were having a real hard time saying, well, if only 10% of learning is formal learning and I'm in charge of formal learning as a learning and development professional, what can I do? And I said, that's never how 70-20-10 was intended. But because it has those numbers, people start doing the math. And I thought, and 70-20-10 is very kind of us focused, learning development focused. What are we pushing out to people?
Mm-hmm. Let me pause just a second there, because it's possible some of my listeners aren't familiar with 70-20-10. Mm-hmm. You just talked about the 10. What's the 70 and the 20?
Yeah, so the 70-20-10 is a model that was made in the 80s by some brilliant people. And it talks about, as learning professionals, and as for our audience, 70% of what people need to be successful, they learn informally. 20% of what they need to be successful in their work, they learn socially. And then 10% they learn formally through courses or workshops or those kind of things. And so, again, this is the product that I'm pushing to you driven. And interacting with learning and development professionals, what we were seeing was, those numbers don't work. And so, 10% of formal learning, well, my portfolio is made up 50% of formal learning. And so I flipped that on its head and said, let's stop paying attention to what we're pushing out to people. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of our learners. And that's why I came up with you, me, we. Me in the you, me, we model is our learner. They're standing right in the middle of the model and they're saying, I am in charge of my learning. I'm in charge of my growth. What is out there that I can use to make myself successful? And then I look to you, my organization, to support me in that and to provide learning opportunities and to provide ways that I can continue to grow and develop. And then I look to my social network, and I think about what opportunities do I have within my we to build my learning. And so when I, as a learning and development professional, look at my portfolio through the lens of you, me, we, I start thinking, how do I empower my learners to grab onto that learning and to really be self-driven and to have the tools and the tips and the help and the support and the championship that they need to be successful? And then how do I make sure that my organization is giving them opportunities that they need? And then how am I building those social structures and those social networks and communities of practice or identity-based groups or whatever it is? How am I supporting that as part of their learning journey as well? And so by just thinking about my portfolio in that you, me, we space, all of a sudden we realize as learning professionals, we have a hand in every piece of a person's learning, be it social, informal, formal, asynchronous, synchronous, whatever it is. We have a piece of that and we should own that, and they should be able to look to us as their trusted partner in helping them to be everything that they can be and they want to be as they go through their development journey.
That's so cool. So one of the things you said that I want to kind of go deeper with, this idea of the empowering the learners to be self-driven. What does that really look like? What does that mean in terms of what they would do compared to what you might think of as traditionally being done?
Yeah, and so it's kind of a what do I do versus what is done to me
Yeah.
model.
Uh-huh.
And we've come at it a number of ways, and we have a multi kind of prong approach to that empowering learners. The first thing we did was we developed a policy here at Berkeley that every staff member has 10 days or 80 hours for continuing professional development every year. So we wrote it into policy and we said, the university supports this. My chancellor, Carol Christ, who is amazing. She's an incredible leader. My boss, Eugene Whitlock, again, amazing. Our vice chancellor, Mark Fisher, all of us said, we at Berkeley care about your learning and we care about it so much that we're going to write it into policy that you have this time. And then we encourage managers when they're writing job descriptions to add a line item into the job description that's 5% of time is for continuing professional development. So now it's part of policy. The campus supports it. It's part of your job because it's written right into your job description. And then it's my team's job to make those opportunities available, to say, here's some fellowships, here's some mentor programs, here's some formal learning, classroom training, here's certificate programs, here's communities of practice, identity-based staff works. It's our job within people and culture, which is what we call HR here at UC Berkeley. It's our job within my team and within people and culture more broadly to make those opportunities available and to give people that championship and the support and all the permission to say, I deserve to grow. I deserve to grow my mind, grow my skills, grow my opportunities, whatever that is. So we can support them in that, but they're in the driver's seat. And we've tried to come to that space by, like I said, writing it into policy, writing it into job descriptions, making it available and marketing to people, really doing an internal marketing campaign that says, this is here for you and we want to support you as you grow as a successful member of the Berkeley family and the Berkeley community.
That is so cool. I love the fact that it's policy. So it's, endorsed on high, and then it's also in the job description. So there's this expectation that someone will make time to do that. Because I think so often people are so busy, they're feeling overwhelmed. It's like, when do I have time to do this? But if it's built in to the job description, then there's that expectation. I just think that's very wise. One of the questions that I was thinking about as I was listening to you describe that is, how do you determine what to offer? Do you do surveys? Do you get input from folks to find out what they feel would meet their needs?
We do. We kind of have a scattershot almost model where when I came to Berkeley, there was a lot of management training. And it was interesting in that it didn't lead to anything. So there were courses that people could take. And so the first thing I did was I said, okay, first off, we need to create a Berkeley people management program that follows people leaders on the entire arc of their journey. So we need a program, and we ended up with a 4-pillar program that starts with aspiring leaders. Is this something you want to do? And, builds to new leaders at Berkeley, and then builds to those 2.0 leaders who want to just take their team to the next level. And then our capstone program is for leaders that have organizational impact. It's called Grow the Organization. And so we started by kind of rethinking about how we do management leadership training. And then we said, that's not enough. We need to be doing more because, we have about 2,000 managers, I think, here on campus, but then we have 7,000 staff. And we have, about 2,000 faculty, I think. And we said, we need to do more. And so we went out and we said, what do you need? What would make your job easier, better, more engaging? What would make you excited to come to work? We did surveys. We went out and talked to people, kind of did that open door policy, like come and tell us what you need. And we created our Grow website. So if you go to grow.berkeley.edu, you end up on our page. If you email grow@berkeley.edu, you end up coming into our inbox so we can collect those suggestions about how people want to grow. we really built our whole model around the marketing question, how do you want to grow today? And when you go to our website, you'll see that. How do you want to grow today? We asked that question and took that feedback in, and people said, I need professional development. I need career development. I need technical and systems training. I need foundational skills training. I need some job skill training. I need to connect with networks. I need to have maybe a fellowship program where I can learn a new skill on a very, short time basis to see if I want to make a career transition. And so as we heard those things, we started building those programs. And of course, we can't build them all ourselves. So I started partnering with people around campus. I have a wonderful colleague in the DEIB space, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging space, Lasana Hotep, who helps, bring programming in with that view. I have a wonderful colleague in talent acquisition, Alex Gomez, who he and his team partner with us to bring programming in for folks in that space. And so by listening and asking people, how do you want to grow today? And then by building it and partnering with people on campus to build a very robust portfolio, we've been able to build programming that meets people where they are and helps them to get to where they want to go. But we couldn't do it alone. It's almost a community job, and it's people here and people in culture. And then it's folks from around campus that do communities. They bring communities together, and it's just building those partnerships and saying, let's do this work together, because the time we put in now is going to make an impact in the future. And being at a university, that's kind of what we do. We do this for our students.
Yes.
To do it for our staff and our faculty as well.
I love that structure. And of course, with my focus on grow strong leaders, I love the word grow that you have included there. I'm curious if you had any surprises in terms of topics that people brought up that they wanted to learn more about that you had never thought of or hadn't really seriously considered before.
Yeah, a lot of what you hear is the same thing that I was building to sell to corporations, when I was in executive education, those kind of coaching skills and time management and, being a good leader and those kind of things come up. Recently, we've been hearing a lot about wellness and resilience and, grief, and people are going through so much because of the social justice movements that have been happening and the COVID pandemic. And there's so much that is coming to people that it's not just about management training anymore. It really isn't. We need to be focusing on the whole person. And so even in our coaching program, we have a wonderful program called the Berkeley People Management Executive Coaching Program that involves a 360 with one of our vendor partners, Korn Ferry, and some coaching with a wonderful vendor partner, Better Up. And those coaching sessions where they used to be just kind of professional development, executive coaching, they've added in sleep coaches and nutrition coaches and diversity coaches and communications coaches, because people, are whole people coming to the office or at home, working from home. And so I don't know that it's surprising I think we could see it coming, but what's happened in the last 2 years has really shown a light on the importance of thinking about your whole person as you're thinking about learning and development, and thinking about wellness, and thinking about all of a person, not just let's make sure you know how to push this cog through the machine, or how to fill out this spreadsheet, or whatever it is. We really need to be focusing on that whole person development, I think.
That's so important, especially after the last 2 years, where it's just been more and more clear that we can't just look at those technical skills and think that's going to take care of people. I'm curious, because you were mentioning the importance of coaching. What have you done to help create an overall coaching culture across campus with all levels in the organization?
I love that you asked that question, Meredith. I know you and I are of the same mind when we think about coaching and the importance of coaching. And I know you've done some amazing work in that space. And one of the things that we did was we said, we want to build a coaching culture at Berkeley. So we said it. We are going to build a coaching culture. And to do that, so we stated it, we had the chancellor talk about, we put it out there. And to do that, we knew it wasn't just, let's have a workshop that teaches people how to be a better coach. We looked at it from the you, me, we space. How are we going to build this culture of coaching? And so we did. We built workshops that gave people some skills when you were thinking about managing in a little bit of a different way. So how do you act as a coach? And then we built in programs where people could be coached. So from a International Coaching Federation certified coach, so people could have that experience. We kind of democratized coaching. We didn't just say, if you're at the cabinet level, you can have a coach. But we built a program that said, if you lead people formally or informally, we have a program where you can come and actually have an executive coach for 6 months. And then we built a community of practice, the Cal Coaching Network, where that community of practice brings people together so they can do that social learning and learn from each other. And so we built that community of practice to support the programs. And then very importantly, we changed the way we do performance evaluation. We moved from a performance evaluation program that was 90% evaluation and maybe 10% development to a program that really focused on performance development with the right amount of evaluation built into it. And to change that culture, you don't only need to, you can't just say it and you can't just build programs. You need to change how people are recognized and rewarded for the work that they do. And we knew that we needed to make a change in that recognition and reward and evaluation. And so we changed the performance program to something we call Achieve Together, which is a program that we developed with a coaching slant instead of just your standard write an appraisal, defend your job, defend the work that you've done. Then your manager writes an appraisal that talks about whatever you've done and sends it up the chain and sends it down the chain. Then it lives in a drawer. So we really, to build that culture, we made big changes in the way that we train, in the way that we develop, in the way that we talk about leadership, and in the way we evaluate leadership.
That's so powerful. I love the holistic approach you've taken and that you're describing about everything that you've done. Now I have to ask, because my guess is not everybody jumped on board and said, oh, goody, I love this new approach. I'm guessing you had some resistance. And so what did you do, especially from leaders who were used to, doing this performance review in a certain way? How did you get their buy-in? What were kind of the stages of implementation that you took?
Yeah, as in any change effort, it took a long time. So it took us a couple of years to get to where we are now. And we started by thinking about, what does success look like? We did some benchmarking. One of our sister campuses, UC Irvine, had put this new program in place for their evaluation process, and it was being very successful. So we talked to them. We talked to people out in industry about what was working, what they were doing. I went to conferences. I went to the Association for Talent Development and just sat in every performance evaluation conversation I could have. And so we did that research and we built an idea. And then we did a pilot, and we did a very big, very long pilot. So our pilot had about 1,000, I think about 1,000 people in like 6 or 7 different units and departments. And we had some that were academic and some that were administrative. And while half of campus was running the old system, this other part of campus, it was about a quarter of campus was running this new system. And that was very confusing for a while, because we were then, as people and culture, running 2 different performance evaluation systems. But it was so worth it, because we learned so much from that pilot. And as we had the pilot, we started building our champions. We started building our network that was out there on campus. And as I mentioned, some were academic, some were administrative. So we started planting the seeds of this new program, and I've had input into it. And I've brought your concerns to it, and people and culture is working with us and they're listening to us. And so when we rolled it out, then after about a 1.5 to 2 year pilot, we had data points where we could say, this is how it was successful for this unit. This is how it was successful for this department. Even still, we had resistance. And so we did a roadshow. We went out and we talked to people about what the new program was. And we talked about why. We didn't just talk about, here's what we're doing to you, that old model. We talked about, here's what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it, and this is why it's important, and this is the success that you see by using coaching, and this is the employee engagement that you see, and this is why it's important, and this is what we heard from people before. This is what we're hearing from people now. And I had a change manager on my team who was just wonderful, and I had some trainers on my team who were just wonderful, and they went out and they talked to people, and they shared stories, and they gathered stories and brought them back to us so we could make tweaks. We didn't stop. That's another thing. Even when the pandemic hit, people said, are you serious? You seriously want us to change the way that we're doing performance when everything around the world is blowing up? And we said, not only are we serious, but we're insistent. Because right now, with the world changing the way it's changing so quickly, it is so important for you as a manager to be connecting with your team in this coaching way, because the data has shown us that. Our pilot has shown us that. Our friends out there in the world have shown us that people need you as a manager to be showing up for them a little bit differently right now. And the Achieve Together program, along with our coaching culture, allows you to do that. And so when people were saying, oh my goodness, put the brakes on, the world is changing and I can't stand one more change, we said, the pain that you feel in this change right now is going to be so much better in the end. We can't just stay in steady state. We need to change this as well. And we're going to be here to support you, and we're going to help you, and we're going to think about this with you. But we can't take our foot off the gas right now because it's just too important. And so we've launched now the program. We're hearing really great things about it. There's still people that are like, oh, I just want to go back to the way it was. And, you'll always hear that. But I think the important part for us is to not listen to those one or two very loud, very insistent voices, and to really think about ways we can listen to the voices of the masses and start pointing out those big wins and the big voices and kind of protect maybe our teams from some of those very loud, very small groups of naysayers that might be out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're always going to be there. And you're right. It's so important to not allow them to be the overriding voice. One of the things that, has happened with so many leaders over the past couple of years is feeling overwhelmed themselves with so much to do. And so I can see where you may have heard one more thing. So I'd really love to hear, because I think there's a general application of what we're talking about here. Anytime you want to initiate a change within an organization, no matter what the size, that getting of the buy-in, but then also supporting people, because it's hard to change from one way of doing something to another. Even when you want it, you still got to rewire your brain for that new way of doing it. So I'd love to have you talk a little bit about what kind of support did you put in place for these leaders if they encountered problems or challenges as they were trying to implement this new system?
Yeah. And when we had the pilot, we built what we called the Achieve Together Network. And so we had a person that was from their unit or department that was there to help them, to be the voice to help them. But I also had a person on my team who was in charge of the program, the change initiative with the program. And she is amazing. So Jan would say, here's what we need you to do. And if you need help, call me. If you want to role play a discussion, give me a call. Let's do that. Bring me into your team. Let me talk to your leadership about what this is and what this isn't. Because what we saw was we were trying to simplify performance to get away from those big, long, written, as I mentioned, justify your job kind of documents, to a place where managers would sit with their team one-on-one and go through a structured question set and ask them things like, what do you like best about your job? How did you collaborate in this last conversation period? How did you innovate, create efficiencies and effectiveness on campus? How did you impact diversity and inclusion on campus? And those are our criteria, our chief criteria. And so asking some structured questions, and then our form that you fill out, I honestly, when I'm doing it, I type it as we're talking. So it's really just about taking notes and having those continuous conversations and building goals together. And so we talked about this form is supposed to be simplified. It doesn't go up the chain and down the chain and it's a simplified form. It's a structured conversation. You can kind of veer off if you want to, or you can stay right in those 6 questions. Do what works for you. The documentation is much more simplified. You can do it right there in real time. And then we also, one of the things that actually worked really well is Jan and I did a role play where we videotaped ourselves having an Achieve Together conversation. And so I had on my screen, I had the form up, and in the little Zoom boxes, I had me and I had Jan, and we went through a role play of this is what an Achieve Together conversation should look like, and this is what the documentation should look like. Because we had to start breaking some of those habits where people were just used to writing and writing and writing and justifying and justifying and justifying. And so we're still going through that. We still are having people that are using the form and just putting and if that's okay with them and that's what they want to do, that's okay. They can use those note sections on the form however works for them. But we provided the support. We provided a person that you could pick up the phone and call, and they would come right into your organization to help you. We provided training. We provided short videos. We did the demos to really kind of retrain people on some of those habits that they had built on. This is what good performance evaluation is. Mm-hmm. We're trying to redefine what good performance evaluation is today.
Wow. There's so much there that you're doing that to me is just brilliant. And one of the key things is, you were making it concrete with that video that you and Jan did. You were making it real for folks so they didn't have to imagine, what does this look like? How do I do this? So you were showing them and role modeling it. And I think that was so great. There's so many specific examples that you're giving here that I think are useful for so many things when we're looking at making a change, and especially as major one as performance reviews. You made some other changes, though, around job descriptions. You alluded to one aspect of the job description earlier. It seems like there were some other things, some policies that you made too, some changes. And so did you go through a similar process when you've introduced other sorts of changes like this?
Depending on how big the change was, some changes we can just do. Some changes, because I'm part of the UC system, some changes we don't even have control over. Our job description system, for example, is a tool that is system-wide. And so when system-wide decides that they want to change the way that job descriptions are written for campus, those are kind of things that are almost done to us, and my colleagues have say with the UC system to give input and, but some of those things, the changes are brought upon us on our campus. Mm-hmm. But one of the lessons that we've learned, I think, through all of this is the power of that multimodal learning experience. So I have a guy on my team, Colin. He does an amazing job at creating what we call grow on the go. So as I mentioned, our marketing word is grow. How do you want to grow today? And so we partner with LinkedIn Learning, and we have LinkedIn Learning available for folks for that kind of asynchronous learning. But we also said, this isn't Berkeley specific. LinkedIn Learning is great, but it's not Berkeley specific. And when we make these system-wide changes or these Berkeley campus changes, wouldn't it be cool if we had LinkedIn Learning like material that people could access for those changes? So, we still have the workshops that we do, the in-person learning, because some people learn really well that way. But in that kind of you, me, we space, and that multimodality space, we said, let's start creating grow on the go. So they're 15 minutes or less. and their videos or audio files that people can listen to support these change efforts that are kind of system specific or Berkeley specific. So when our job builder, our job description tool changed, the first thing the team said was, we need to build a grow on the go about this. So let's partner with our friends in comp and benefits and get a grow on the go out there so people can come to the course about it. They can talk to the change manager about it, or if they have 10 minutes and just want to do a little bit of kind of on their own asynchronous learning, there's a tool for them to do that too. And so I think building that multimodality of learning within the people and organization development team allows us to support any kind of a change, be it something that we're doing within Berkeley People and Culture, be it something the UC is doing, be it something that the world has put upon us that we now think, oh goodness, now we need to do something to adjust to this. Making sure we're giving people those tools in a bunch of different ways so they can come to that learning and again, own that learning experience for themselves to make it what they need to gain understanding, gain skill, gain knowledge, and move successfully forward.
One of the strengths of what you've done, and I'm sure you realize this, but I'm going to just say it, is some of the terminology that you've created. This grow on the go is such a cool idea because now it's a term that people use when they're thinking about, oh, we need a grow on the go video or module or whatever. I also love that achieve together. I think those are two powerful, words that you've put in a phrase that people can just connect with. So, and just the grow in general. So I think, kudos to you and your team for coming up with these phrases that people can easily remember and buy into and really enjoy. Do you have any success stories that you would like to share based on the things that you've put into place? What are some positive changes you've seen or growth opportunities you've seen people take advantage of? And, what were they like before and after they went through this? What did they evolve into?
Yeah, thank you for your statement about these powerful words. And so my undergrad is in marketing. So while I have a Ph.D. in organization development and change, my undergrad's in marketing. And I think as learning and development professionals, we need to be marketers. Particularly as a chief learning officer, we need to market our services to our internal audience, just like consultants market their services to gain business. And so getting those, memorable, catchy marketing terms is really important. And I think that is a huge success story. So when people say to me, when they see me and they're like, oh, grow, I'm like, that's fantastic. They know who I am through our marketing word, It's so funny. I was having a conversation just before this one, Meredith, and I was talking about with a person on campus, and we were talking about our travel system, like the way we book travel. And at the end of the conversation, he said to me, when I was new on campus, I got here about 3 years ago, and he said, I went to your grow site and I started taking courses and getting involved with the communities of practice and getting involved with the identity-based staff orgs. And he said, I was an individual contributor. I was a freelancer for 20 years. And I got this job at Berkeley and I thought, oh, like how am I going to make that transition? And he said, your courses gave me knowledge, they gave me community, they gave me a network. And literally this just happened the hour before you and I are talking right now. And that is a success story to me. When we have a manager who says, I had my Achieve conversation, I had my Achieve Together conversation, and it was so fun. And I learned this and I learned that about this person on my team. And then the person says, and I feel so much more engaged and I feel so much more ownership of my work and my world. Those success stories come back to us, and I think sometimes we tend to, as humans, we hear the complaints and we get so invested in those complaints that we don't take the time to step back and think about the 100, positive things that came through. And so I hear from people, I've been at Berkeley for 10 years. And I see the change that you all are making. I see what people and culture is doing differently. I feel it. I feel more connected. So those success stories are just wonderful. And then of course we do a system-wide engagement survey. So every 2 years we do an engagement survey with a partner, and it's the entire UC system. And so we got our results for 2021. So we did it in 2019, 2021, 2017, 19. When we got our 2021 results, all of our key performance indicators were statistically significantly positive improvement. And that was huge. So you hear the anecdotal stories, you see people come to you and tell you how they're feeling more engaged, how they're feeling more excited. But then you get those hard numbers too. And they say, your campus, people are showing up and they're answering these surveys, and they are more engaged, and they are more excited about their work, and they are able to be their authentic selves more at work. They have better career opportunities. They feel like management cares. With the change and achieve together, our overall rating, positive approval for performance evaluation on campus went up 8 percentage points. And the only thing we changed was the way that we moved to this conversation, kind of coaching conversation, performance evaluation. It went up 8 percentage points. That's huge with a campus the size of ours. And so those success stories, the anecdotal ones, but then the numbers ones and the data ones just I think show that what we're doing is working. You can feel it, and we have some data to back it up.
That's so cool. What you've just described really is the antidote to the Great Resignation. You've laid out here for us today in this short time so many elements that can turn people from either apathetic or negative into positive, engaged. I mean, I'm listening to the words you're using. I'm watching how enthusiastic you are about the impact that you're having in a positive way, not just on performance, but on lives and how people are truly benefiting. And so your numbers verify what I can hear is going on there in terms of people feeling fulfilled, feeling safe, feeling encouraged. There's so much good that you're doing. I'm just thrilled to be able to share that with my audience today, Angela. You've shared just so much value that I would encourage people to listen to our conversation more than once, because there are so many elements that you've put in place that people can sort of accelerate their own learning and their own implementation by extracting some of those key points of what you did and then applying it to whatever situation they may be in at the moment. Thank you so much for this great conversation today. I knew it would be wonderful. You just are you're such a bright light in terms of, who you are and what you bring to UC Berkeley. They're so fortunate to have you.
Well, thank you.
That's my opinion.
Thank you so much. It's just such a pleasure talking with you. And I'm so thankful to be able to share our experiences. And what we do as learning and development professionals matter. We change people's lives every day. People spend so much time at work. It is our job to make them feel like they're contributing, like they're successful, like they're safe, exactly like you said. They're engaged, they're excited to do the work that they do. And, sometimes that's easier than in other times, but
yes.
It is our job as learning and development professionals to support people and to make their lives better, I think. And so I love being able to do that here at Berkeley. I love managing a team that buys into that. My pillar, the whole way up to the chancellor, buys into that. And the team that works with me buys into that. And we feel that. And I think that's so powerful.
That's great. Well, I know that some of my listeners will want to connect with you, learn more about your work. So share with them how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. I would love to hear from anyone that has questions or wants to thought partner or just has some ideas that I can incorporate to the work that I do. The good thing, my last name is very unique. So if you Google Angela Stopper, it's pretty much going to be me. But look me up on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out our Grow page. Again, it's grow.berkeley.edu. Our email is grow@berkeley.edu. Please reach out. I'm excited to connect and thought partner and continue to build my network and my knowledge, and bring all of the knowledge that your listeners have to just make me even more efficient and effective. And I want to thank you, Meredith, for the work that you've done in helping to expand my knowledge and just to make me more successful as well. I think these kind of conversations and these networks are something that is so important for our community and for the learning and development professional in general. So thank you for the knowledge that you've shared through your podcast and all the wonderful, wonderful work you did. Your books are incredible. Thank you so much for being in my professional sphere. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Well, this has been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to staying in touch, continuing another conversation with you. And thank you again for being my guest today. It's just been a great conversation.
Truly my pleasure. I'm excited to hear from your audience.
Thanks for tuning in to my podcast. Now head over to growstrongleaders.com and check out our 2 books, Connect with Your Team and Peer Coaching Made Simple. While you're there, download the free facilitator guide to find out how to implement our unique peer coaching system. Until next time, I'm Meredith Bell.